Welcome to the Center for Universal Oneness. We are an open, welcoming, spiritual community that supports all faith traditions and invites you to join us on your spiritual journey. We host different speakers each week to guide and inspire us. We are guided by universal principles of acceptance of all that is sacred, and we strive to live in the oneness of love. Please enjoy this presentation.
Okay, so we want to welcome back, she is no stranger to our community, Reverend Jeniffer Hutchins. Her talk today is going to be titled Green Pastures. And Reverend Hutchins has also agreed to stay with us today after service for coffee talk. So that way, if you have additional questions or you just want to speak with her about something that she's presented in her talk today, you'll have the opportunity there. And we ask that if you have any questions, you might want to hold them till after the service has been completed. And then, we can just go to coffee talk and mingle and visit amongst ourselves with her there. So Reverend Hutchins is the founder of the Unity Arts Ministry. She's an ordained Unity minister, art educator, professional artist, and also a published artist. And you can learn more about Unity Arts Ministry at unityartministry.org. So we welcome you, Reverend Hutchins. We're glad that you are here today, and we look forward to the message that you will be presenting. And without any further ado, Reverend Hutchins, take it away.
Thank you, Dan. The title of my talk is Green Pastures, so I have brought this beautiful image to share with you. You all to take a deep breath here. Just imagine yourself stepping into this landscape. Feel that sun on you, the warmth at exactly the right temperature for you. This is one of those times and places where you get to control your environment. Take a deep breath in and feel the sense of peace. Feel the sense of peace. Imagine just watching those clouds slowly drifting by. Do you feel it? Feel that relaxation. Some days, this level of peace feels right before us. It feels as though we are truly basking in peace, and all things in our lives are going exactly as they should, right? Moving in harmony and flow. And other days, we get caught in the experience of being human, and we forget that we have access to this level of peace in our lives. But the truth is, no matter how far away peace may feel, no matter what life circumstances jump in front of us and call our attention to them, we always, through the power and the presence of the divine, have the opportunity to lean back into peace. And prayer is the spiritual practice that we have and that we're going to talk about today that can help us to recenter into that peace. I've been inspired lately by the writings of Joel Goldsmith. This happens to be the collected essays of Joel Goldsmith. He is author, founder of The Infinite Way, for those of you who are familiar with his work. One of the essays that I came across recently was The Secret of the 23rd Psalm, The Secret of the 23rd Psalm. And in this, he is looking at the Psalm of David truly as an affirmative prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. Joel says of this, if we notice and we really look at the words that are being used here, he says, in that statement, there is no appeal to God for anything. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. There's no turning to God for anything. There's not even an expectancy of good from God, right? That which we label good. There is simply a positive statement, the Lord is my shepherd. And it naturally follows, I shall not want. Goldsmith says, not only does he provide green pastures, but notice this, he maketh me to lie down in them. The burden is no longer on your shoulders. Now here we're seeing, right, the Lord being personified again as God, as he. I want you to not get caught up in language here, right? If you notice any words that don't resonate for you, I want you to change them, right? Higher power, the universe, spirit, divine love, what words resonate for you? Because this message is so powerful. We don't want to get caught in how somebody has used words. And that's why the image is so important. This idea that divine love is constantly leading us to green pastures, feeding us all that we need, and providing that life-sustaining nourishment, that water of life as well. Peace is always available to us. Now, your image of green pasture, of that place of peace, might be this serene fields, or it might be something else. For me, when I think of something that's almost like that sense of fairy tale beauty and peace and relaxation, I think of this trip that I went to France many years back. I was able to attend an artist retreat in the southwest of France, and the name of the retreat center was Le Vieux Couvent, which literally translates to Old Convent. It was a 17th century convent that had been converted into little, sort of like a bed and breakfast kind of thing, but specifically for artists. And the grounds had been converted into these lush gardens. So, so beautiful. Just picture, right? The 17th century stone buildings, flowers in the courtyard. They had their own vegetable garden, which they used for preparing the evening meals. Everything about it was that idyllic sort of fairy tale setting. And that was actually this trip that I went on. This was not where I stayed, but one of the outings that we went on to paint in plein air, paint on site. My first night in this beautiful, serene place, right? I'm spending all day like, oh my goodness, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you for this experience. Thank you for this beauty. Thank you for this meal, right? That first meal, which lasted 2 hours, by the way. Dinner there was not to be fooled with. I thought I was exhausted, right? Like you're jet lag, feeling good, but really tired. And then dinner went from like 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I was ready for bed, so ready. So I went up to my little room, this tiny little nook of a room in the corner, and hopped up on the bed and got out my book for my evening reading and prayer. When I noticed from the corner of my eye, a spider start moving across the floor. Now, take a breath with me, because my little green pasture of peace just got rocked. I want to tell you that to start with, because me and spiders did not have a very good relationship going into that trip. Like, I want to preface this with, when I was a child, if a spider, and I remember this like so clearly, a spider one time dropped from my ceiling in front of me. I say in front of me like it was probably 3 feet away, but it felt like it was like right in front of me. I couldn't move. I screamed for my mom. I was frozen in fear. Okay, this is the relationship that I had with spiders. I wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't go near them. I just stood there and I would wait for somebody else to squish it. That was where I was. Now, this spider in the beautiful, idyllic Le Vieux Couvent was the size of my fist, possibly not including its legs. It was like a black bear of a spider, like movement on my floor in this little room, me and the spider. Now, I gained enough courage to run like heck out of that room and go get my host and be like, there's a spider in my room, and it's this big. And he was like, okay, Jen, let's go check it out. And so we go back to the room. I'm standing, this door, outside the door, let him go check it out, right? Waiting for him to go in, squish it, fix it for me. He couldn't find the spider. He couldn't find the spider. And he used this phrase, which I'm sure you all have heard at some point in your life when you don't like something that's happening to you. I'm sure he's more afraid of you than you are of him. I sincerely doubt that. In that moment, I'm like, are you kidding me? So he leaves and I stood there in the doorway. I don't know, an hour, no, at least a few minutes, right? Taking some breaths, collecting myself. I had a choice. I could choose to let this spider and my fear ruin my green pasture for the next 10 days, or I could make peace with this experience. Now, I say that now, like 10 years later, like it was an easy choice for me to walk back into that room. But I knew I had to do something. I had to be able to make peace with the situation, or else I couldn't enjoy the rest of my trip. I would be so caught in the fear every time I walked in there. And even when we went out to paint in these beautiful rural scenes and these old little villages nooked away in the mountainsides, I would be thinking about, yeah, but when we get back, I've got a giant spider in my room. I knew that was a choice that I could make, or I could do something else about it. And so I chose the something else. I chose prayer. Now, before I tell you about my prayer experience, I want you to think about, what is the spider in your life right now? What is the spider in your life right now? Is it when you turn on the news? Is it a relationship that's going through some changes? Is it your checkbook? Is it anything, right? Any type of change in our lives? What is the spider? What is it that's causing that fear and tension that you're carrying with you? And are you willing to hang on to it, or are you ready to let it go, to take that next step to release it? Because we have a choice. We have a choice. So for me, my choice was to step back into the room and kind of quickly hop up onto the bed and, first, of course, doing this with the covers, and then sitting down, getting myself comfortable. And I began to pray. I began to pray essentially what we're hearing in the 23rd Psalm: the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Those weren't my exact words. It was more, there's a giant spider in my room, but God is bigger than that giant spider. God is bigger than my problem. God is bigger than my fears. And I'm willing to know and to trust that God is right here, present with me. That divine love is here and present with me. I am protected. I am safe. And I kept breathing into that, first with words, until I was able to sink myself down, release enough of the fear that I could simply be present. Now, as I did this and continued to just breathe into the experience, knowing and trusting that God was with me, that I was called into this experience, I was put into this room, perhaps this was all unfolding as it needed to, trusting. When I came out of that prayer, I felt peace. I felt that sense of relaxation, of release. Have you ever had that level of peace through overcoming a fear like that? This leads us to another section of the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Now, trust me when I say that when I saw that spider, and my first response to that was, this is the valley of death, right? Like, that was the level of fear that was there. And again, turning to Joel Goldsmith's interpretation of this line, he says, David writes he has no fear even in the valley of the shadow of death. How often do we fear when something unexpected presents in our lives, whether it's a health challenge, lack, limitation, unemployment, a spider, whatever the error thought may be. We fear because we lack the realization that God, the divine Spirit, is going through it with us. The 23rd Psalm is not a prayer of beseeching God to come with us. It is a knowing that the presence of Spirit is always there. It's not reaching out to have God take it away. Dear God, please remove the spider. It is knowing that God is there with us through it. Goldsmith says, what difference does it make what particular trial you are going through, as long as you know with all the confidence in you that the Spirit of the divine is walking it with you? Do you feel that sense of like your shoulders dropping? Like whatever it is, we're not alone in it. Whatever it is. Now, I have to share with you that not only did I make peace with that spider, that one spider, by having a little conversation with it. In hindsight, maybe I should have spoken to it in French because he would have understood better. I don't know. But I spoke out loud in my room, not fearing what my neighbors thought. But hey, spider, I know you're here somewhere. Let's make a little truce. I'm here visiting for the next 10 days, and during my stay, I would like to not see you again. Please keep to yourself. I will, keep to my little corner and we'll be good. I never saw it again. And I made such peace with that idea of spider that me and spiders totally shifted our relationship. I became the person that would catch them in my house and release them outside. I've noticed some fear around spiders resurfacing recently, which is probably why I wrote this talk, because I need to revisit the fears, because that happens, right? We make peace with something and then it comes back again another time and we've got to revisit. But for years, I would catch them like under a cup and a piece of paper and set them outside, like totally different relationship than I used to have because of that experience. It truly was a moment of transformation for me. And each of us, right, we can lean into this truth that the power of prayer is transforming. Absolutely, it can be transforming. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's the final lines of the 23rd Psalm. And the house of the Lord is the absolute knowing that we live and breathe and have our being in the Spirit of God. We can never be separated, just as the wave is one with the ocean, right? Think about that. We can never be separated. This is that knowing, that dwelling in the house of the Lord, dwelling in the awareness of spiritual presence always. And this knowing is what brings us true peace. We can lean on this peace. You can lean on this peace no matter what you're going through today, no matter what you will go through tomorrow, no matter what you will go through in years to come. This peace is always available to you. The green pasture is always right there. You can step into it, you can walk into it, and you can find that level of peace so that we can go about our lives without that constant fear. Right? When I get back to the room, the spider's going to be there. Whatever that is for you, we can release it. God is with us. God is as us. God is the inner voice of wisdom that guides us, that comforts us, and that brings us reassurance. And that is the ultimate goal of prayer. So as you move through your week, remember that God is your source. God is your strength. God is the ever-present guidance and protection in every situation, in every circumstance you find yourself. Remember that the divine Spirit is there. When fear, doubt, or worry creep in, breathe into that power of prayer, right? If you need to stand at the doorway for a little bit and just simply breathe, say, okay, I'm about to face this thing. I'm about to be present with my fears. Allow that space and allow yourself to breathe into it, and then take that next action step to release it. Now, one of the hardest things for some of us, right, is that shift in that mental perspective of not saying, dear God, remove all troubles, all things that I don't like to experience, keep them out of my life forever, right? Like just take all the spiders in the world out so I don't ever have to see them again. We often turn to that, like, take it away, or I don't want to have to experience it. But the thing is that those ideas, those experiences are there for our growth. We are here living in this world, but we don't have to be of it, right? We can lift ourselves, elevate our consciousness above it. And in that, we have the strength to overcome anything. So remember that we are not asking God to fix or change the situation. We are asking ourselves to remember that God is the situation. God is within the situation, and God is within us, strong enough to overcome it. Some days the peace of the green pasture is right there, and some days the peace of the green pasture feels unobtainable. But through truly looking at our spiritual practices and constantly returning to them, we have the ability to step into that green pasture at any time. We get to create it. We get to imagine it. We get to envision it. We become the artist of our lives in that way. Prayer is a spiritual practice through which you can access perfect peace, no matter the circumstances. And together we're going to now turn into a meditation to lean into the power of peace, the power of prayer, the power of presence as we meditate on our own green pastures. The awareness of the peace and presence of God right where we are. In all things, as all things, manifest and ethereal. We are prepared. We are prepared to rest, knowing that peace is possible. Take a moment, if you haven't done so, to adjust your body in your seat. Perhaps roll your shoulders, release any tension, adjust your hips. And as your body comes to a comfortable position, let it then simply rest, knowing your body is supported. Its needs are met right here and now. If it's comfortable for you, I invite you to close your outer eyes, or you may wish to simply drop the lids, turn to a soft focus on a central point, an image. Take a breath here, letting the breath bring us into the present moment. I invite you to turn your awareness to your mind. Notice if there are any thoughts, ideas, possibly fears that are scurrying through your mind right now. Take a moment to simply acknowledge them. And then invite them to be still. Freeze frame. Let it rest. As we take another deep breath down into our heart space, imagining it as the seat of the divine within, place of perfect peace and stillness. Breathing into the heart, we release, we let go, we breathe into the peace right here, right now. Breathing into the silence. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. In the next inhale, begin to bring your awareness back to your body. Wiggle your toes, your fingertips. We take with us the peace of this moment as we gently flutter our eyes open and give thanks for this opportunity to touch the stillness of peace at the presence within our own hearts. And so it is. Thank you, God.